Learn how to make morel mushroom bead earrings with me. Start with 2 beads. Bring the thread back through the first bead. Readjust the beads as needed. Then thread back through that second bead. Add 1 bead and thread back through that second bead. This is the ladder stitch, which forms the base of your earrings. Bring the thread back through that last bead and continue the stitch. This part of the earrings is the most flimsy and requires the most adjustment, but as you add beads, it will only strengthen. Continue until you have the whole base. I accidentally started with the wrong color, so let's try that again. For this pattern, we will increase a single brick stitch, so start with 2 beads, thread back through that last link. Adjust the beads and go back up through that last bead. To continue the single brick stitch, add 1 bead at a time and go through the next link. Go back up through the bead and continue down the line, 1 link at a time. Once you reach the end, if you are wanting to increase, you will go add another bead and go back through that last link again. Feed the thread up through that last bead, and then we will continue with the next line of the pattern. For this pattern, I will now begin the double brick stitch. Add 4 beads, and since we are increasing, we will start with the first link. Adjust the beads so that they are stacked and thread the line back through those last 2 beads. Since this is a double brick stitch, we will continue with 2 beads and go through the next link. Continue this technique until you reach the end of your row. Similar to the single brick stitch, once we reach the end of this row, we will add 2 beads and go back through that last link. Finish by going back up through those beads. Follow this technique to continue to increase each row. Here is where I want to decrease. I will still start with 4 beads since this is a double brick stitch, but instead of going through the first link, I go through the second link. Then feed the line back up through those last 2 beads. Same as before, continue to add 2 beads at a time. Lucky for you, I ran out of thread, so I will show you how to finish and add new thread. It's pretty simple. You just weave the thread through as much of the pattern back and forth as you can until it is solid and won't go anywhere. Once I'm satisfied, I snip that thread. To add thread, I will feed my new thread through the section that I want to begin and just go far enough to where I can weave through some beads in the pattern. Similar to finishing, I will just go back and through several parts of the pattern to stabilize the thread. Once I'm satisfied, I will snip that thread. Then my thread is exactly where I want to start again. To finish this pattern, I will be adding a loop for the ear hooks. In order to start in the middle, I will weave the thread back through the last beads until I'm where I want to finish. I will add 4 beads and then thread it back through that row. This will create a nice loop for my ear hook. I will feed my thread through the beads in order to solidify, but I have to weave through some of those beads in the pattern in order to get to the other side of the loop. Once I thread through the loop a second time, I like to try to catch as many beads after the loop because I will begin to weave through the pattern to solidify the thread. By weaving up and down through the pattern, I solidify the thread so that it does not move. Then I take some scissors and snip the excess. Let's begin the fringe. The thread is not going through the direction of the bead that I would like, so I will thread it back through the bead, up through the bead next to it, and then back down so that it begins the correct direction. Now we can start the fringe. Add the correct number of beads to your thread, skip the last bead, and thread back up through those beads. Be sure to go through the bead in the row above the fringe. Now you want to thread back down through the next bead and begin the next line of fringe. Continue this technique following your pattern for the correct number of beads in each fringe. If you made it this far, you're a hero. If you like this pattern, you can check it out in my SD shop through the link in my bio. At the very least, I hope you learned a technique or two. Thanks for following along my Morel mushroom tutorial.